So joining us now to discuss that, Peter Supino, Managing Director, Senior Analyst at Wolfe Research. Peter, nice to have you. And let me start there. You know, I've talked so much about Warner Brothers. I will continue to, of course. But what is the landscape going to look like in 2026 for the likes of Comcast with its ownership of NBCUniversal and perhaps Paramount if it is not successful here? Do they need to do something?
Well, whatever happens, it'll hinge off of the outcome of the battle for Warner Discovery. And so the market's obsession with that battle makes all the sense in the world. If Netflix wins it, Paramount Skydance faces really important strategic questions about what to do next. The answer to those questions might involve Comcast. So Comcast faces a similar conundrum because they won't win Warner Discovery. There's 6 companies that matter in streaming, arguably 7, and 4 of them, the native streamers, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Disney, control their own destinies. The other 3, Warner, Paramount, and NBCUniversal, need to figure out something to do.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Roberts obviously tried. It was a difficult, a long shot in terms of trying to do something for Warner Brothers Discovery, as I reported. But to your point, it also becomes a lot for him about his voting rights and being willing to potentially give them up. You can imagine a Paramount-Comcast combination. You'd have CBS and NBC coming together. So not without its level of complexity, for sure.
Combining Comcast and Paramount seems almost unimaginable because Comcast stock trades for such a low multiple, just 5 times EBITDA and 6.5 times earnings. And the cable investors and the media investors have such different strategic challenges right now. The deal that we can imagine that makes so much sense is a separation of NBCUniversal from Comcast, because that business could trade at more than twice the multiple Comcast does, and that could unlock about $8 per share of value for Comcast shareholders.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about when I say that. I don't expect them to actually buy it. I'm saying you'd spend NBCU. But again, his voting stake becomes important. He hasn't wanted to give it up in the past, although it's unclear to me what he was willing to do in terms of Warner Brothers. But it becomes a gating issue. For Comcast overall, though, for frustrated shareholders who've sat here, as we have, and watched the stock decline year after year at this point, you know, what is your sense for 2026, and how much does it hinge on being able to do something that creates value with NBCUniversal?
Well, first, let's give Comcast high marks for the provision of editorial integrity to CNBC, since we can have this conversation in this format. And our view is that the future of NBCUniversal almost certainly needs to involve a separation from the Comcast cable company. Whether that requires Brian Roberts to relinquish his voting control is unclear, and his willingness to do that is extremely unclear. The Warner Brothers Comcast, or Warner's NBC proposal from a few weeks ago, based on the filings, seems to have offered Warner a stake in a subsidiary that was controlled by Comcast. And so Brian Roberts was not proposed to give up voting.
Yeah, it was 51-49. That's right. Yeah.
That's right. And so going forward, I think it's a super interesting time to think about Comcast's next move after the outcome of Warner is clear. And you reported 10 days ago that an activist might be accumulating shares of Comcast. We have no insight on that, but it's a really fascinating topic.